Lenawee with our 2026 Lenawee County High School Coaches Football Preview Show right here on the Cave and Lenawee TV. I'm Ian Wendt. On the phone ahead of time with Bill Wilharms at Madison, Trojans head coach for this season. Coach, thanks for getting on the phone. I know you're busy on the day of, but thanks for taking the time to talk before the show.
Oh, you bet. Not a problem. I appreciate you guys doing this.
All right. Well, the younger coaches, I ask them their background. And, for you, I don't really need to. You got hardware to prove your success in the coaching world. But the question is, we heard there would be an opening at Madison. And, will Wilharms go for that job? And I know you work in that building already. So if you could kind of talk about the journey to the headset for the Trojans.
Yeah, it was a surprise to me. I was expecting to be back at Lenawee Christian this coming year. And when it opened up, I do the strength and speed stuff over there, and I teach over there. So I know these kids. The senior group is pretty special to me. Because I had them their freshman and sophomore years as the JV basketball coach, and we were pretty darn successful with them. They're a truly athletic group and fun-loving bunch. And so when we had the opportunity to apply, I did. And, turned out for me that I was what they were looking for. And, yeah, and it's a nice way. It's kind of a coming home piece for me as far as coming back, because I started my career off with Coach Hamilton as his defensive coordinator at Madison back in '96. So it's kind of a nice piece coming back. So,
well, a school that hasn't had as much success in football as others in the county. We'll put it that way. But last year saw some success. I know you were doing your thing at LCS, but this is a group of kids that has won some football games together, and I'm sure want to continue to grow and to win.
Yeah, they're coming in with the right mindset and stuff like that, and we're building off of the success that Coach Gallagher and his coaching staff had last year. Obviously we do things differently as far as offensively and stuff like that, so it's a learning curve. But it's a good, like I said, it's a good group of kids. It is a great group of parents. We've had our photo day already and stuff like that. And we had a successful, a lot of parents coming out for all of that stuff. And it was just a very, very good Madison community time.
Coach, I'm going to ask a question that I think Jeff Bowen would ask you, kind of tongue in cheek. What's it like coaching 11 players on one side instead of 8?
For me, offensively, not much difference.
Okay.
For my defensive guys, there's a big gap because 8-man is so much tougher. Because you feel like you're missing a gap every time in 8-man. So 11-man and 8-man offense. I'm happy. I get another skill guy back, and I get my tackles back. But realistically, it's not that big of a change for me offensively. Now, I do have to worry about those, the Hudson Tiger safeties and the Clinton safeties and that stuff. We don't see those in 8-man as much. So, that piece will be a little bit different. So.
Well, and a lot of times it's not the same player, safety and quarterback. You get some just one side of the ball kind of rosters. But speaking of roster construction, Coach, what are the numbers like for Madison? Again, a program that has been building. What are they looking like this year?
We're sitting over 60 players between our varsity and our JV. So good numbers that way. Great group of seniors. We've got 20 plus seniors. A bunch of them hadn't played since probably their middle school years. But they wanted to come back out. So we're building them into some of the different packages. And obviously they give us depth, and they give us a newfound sense of excitement because, they're brand new now to the game of football again, and they're loving it. And so, yeah, it's been fun.
So you've had, just a week of official kind of practices with the team. I'm sure you did some off-season type stuff, or the kids did on their own, obviously within the rules of MHSAA stuff. But how's practice been like? I hear you're doing 2-a-days through one of our coworkers.
Yes, we have. I picked up some stuff. We were down for the Shred Mill Invitational down in Texas, and down in Guyton, and their facilities is second to none in the nation. And talking to their football coaches, their strength and conditioning coaches, and then talking to some of the older collegiate coaches, decided I was going to try something this year where we go individual stuff in the morning. We do our weights, we do our speed stuff in the morning. And then we come back in the evening and we go mainly team time for 2 hours, and we call it a day. So it's split up. A lot of individual, a lot of group teaching time, a little bit slower perhaps in the morning. But then in the afternoon or early evening, that's when we really ramp it up and get into our tempo stuff when we're on offense, similar to, some of the collegiates that are here in the state of Michigan, and then down south. And then other high schools that are, Coach Romano is a great friend of mine, and I know how fast Coach does with the Tecumseh teams. And so, he and I talk a ton, and, just trying to replicate some of that speed. And, again, you got to convert, you got to make first downs, or you got to have big plays and get touchdowns. But not that much different than what we've tried to accomplish when we were at LCS. So.
Yeah, and tying the two together, I'd been over, and we had talked after a practice or two that you had over at LCS. And it was toward the end of the season, and it was like, well, we got 14 guys dressed for the game. And then to hear you say 60 in the the program, practice has to be a little bit different. In terms of, do you have more coaching staff helping you out this year?
Well, I don't know about that, because you guys always gave me a hard time as to how many my player to coach ratio over at LCS when you guys would watch the state championship games, and it was like I'd have like 15, 18 coaches. So we have a ton of coaches at Madison. I brought a bunch of my guys with me again from LCS. And stuff like that. We have a great group of young coaches that were on Coach Gallagher's staff last year that we retained that are going to be fabulous coaches. And then we've got a big buy-in from our middle school coaches. They've been coming to learn the offense and the defense. So you see those guys out there jumping in, getting used to drill work and stuff like that. So got a good mix of young guys, old guys. I look at sometimes when we've got Coach Aiken, Coach Schuler, some of these guys, I'm going, well, we're pushing well over 100 years of varsity experience here. And then you go to the other side, you go, well, Coach Oren, Coach Moses, they've been on the JV staff for a couple of years, and now they're stepping in. And so, yeah, it's a good mix, but it's also a good mix because these young guys, both those guys played college football. Coach Brewer, Zach Brewer, who used to play at Madison for me, he's helping us out. So he brings a wealth of knowledge, both, for the wide receivers and the defensive backs. Coach Vance works over at DS Johnson Associates, and I know you guys know them from sponsoring all the stuff. Mm-hmm. He does a fabulous job. He was with me at LCS forever, and he does O-line, D-line. So Coach Barber, who's a baseball guy, but he loves the game of football as much, and his son was a very good safety and player last year. His youngest one's on the team this year, so we have a great group of coaches. Have a lot of fun with them, and they're starting to understand my philosophy a lot more. And it's difficult because when you're not used to, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays are our ICNS days, central nervous system days. So we go to the wall on those days, but with short sprints and stuff like that. And our tempo time is really, really fast. And then our Tuesday, Thursdays, there's a low central nervous system days, let them recover. And it's more about the mental focus piece and, maybe hand placement by a wide receiver on a stalk block, really stressing that kind of stuff. So they're starting to understand that versus just the traditional just grind when you get into football. And so, and the players are too. So it's a little bit different for them. So. And it's nice because we can go both ends, JV and varsity. We mix at times. We hoot and holler, supporting each other. So it's been a good first week.
Talking Madison football with Coach Wilharms. Looking at the 2026 schedule, pretty simple. You have the LCAA, Grass Lake, then to open the season. And at the end, you mentioned Tecumseh. The Indians come to town for week 9. So talk about a schedule there.
I love how you said pretty simple.
Yep.
LCAA football in just by itself. I mean, what a league. I've always admired it. I've gotten to know a lot of those guys, through the years when I was at Madison and also at LCS. Obviously, Coach Rogers and I are super friends over at Hudson. We've back to the Coach Luma days when I would take my Madison teams or my LCS teams over and we would 7-on-7 during the summer. We know each other so well and, really supportive. We've talked this week and stuff like that. And it is a fabulous league. Grass Lake, got to watch a little bit of them on film. Looking forward to seeing them scrimmage next week against Springport. Look like they bring back a lot of kids. So, obviously they're going to be, older, probably more talented group than what they were last year. So we look forward to that. And then, Tecumseh, obviously county school, larger than us and gives us opportunities. I know it did for Madison last year with playing them as far as the points. And like I said, Coach Dolson, we have a great deal of fun at the county banquet. Love his staff, and obviously Coach Romano's, absolutely wonderful with his wealth of knowledge and his willingness to share. Even now, I can actually say with me as a younger coach, is what I'm dealing with, Coach Rowe. It's that way. So, but no, a great group, and I look forward to it. The competition brings out the best, and the game of football. Yeah, you want to win, but so many life lessons that these kids get to have, and through the game and the competition piece, and the great relationships through the years that I've gained, and I know my coaching staff has, with other coaching staffs around the league, so and around the county. So
all right,
it's
Coach.
Awesome.
Yeah, Coach, one more for you. Expectations for the season. That can look like wins. That can look like a lot of different things. But what are your goals for 2026?
Burn the boats. Don't let anything stop us. As far as we're not holding anything back. We're going to have fun. Play hard. Play competitive. Play physical. If we do those things, hey, we will. You're never going to play a perfect football game. You're never going to call all the right plays. You're never going to have the kids execute all the right plays. But we're going to try to minimize the negatives and maximize the positives, and go have a fun season with a great group of kids, great group of parents, and getting after it for the Madison community.
All right, Coach, as always, thanks for your time talking to us. Looking forward to your season back at Madison. Your commute every day has cut down a little bit. You get to stay in the building after school.
It is. That is one of the big positives there. So, but I do wish. Last thing I'll say is I wish my LCS community good luck, because I'm always going to be supportive of those guys and Coach Baker over there. So,
absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Coach, and I appreciate it.
All right. You have a great day.
All right, you too. Once again, that was Bill Wilharms, the head coach of the Madison Trojans football team. It's the Lenawee County Coaches Preview Show from Clark's Corner, Hometown Pizza, 96.5 The